I stared at Mark Davidson across his mahogany desk, maintaining a neutral expression as he delivered the news with barely concealed satisfaction. His words hung in the air between us. We're restructuring the department, and unfortunately, your position won't exist after next month. I see, I said quietly, watching his smirk grow wider. But before you go, he continued, leaning back in his leather chair, you'll need to train your replacement. Jennifer starts tomorrow. I expect you to show her everything about running our marketing division. Our marketing division. The irony of his words almost made me laugh. If only he knew. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and for the past 12 years, I've been the marketing director at Davidson Tech Solutions, or at least that's what everyone thought. The truth was far more interesting. 3 months ago, I had secretly purchased the entire company through a holding corporation I built over the years. Mark had no idea that the MKS Ventures that now own Davidson Tech was actually named after my initials, Sarah Catherine Mitchell. Of course, I replied, keeping my voice steady. I'll make sure Jennifer learns everything she needs to know. Mark nodded, clearly pleased with my docile response. Good. I knew you'd be professional about this. Too many people get emotional when they're let go. I thought about the stack of documents sitting in my lawyer's office, waiting to be filed tomorrow morning. Yes, emotions can certainly get in the way of business decisions. As I walked back to my office, I couldn't help but reflect on how I'd gotten here. 12 years ago, I'd started at Davidson Tech as a junior marketing associate. Back then, the company had been run by Mark's father, Robert Davidson, a brilliant businessman who saw potential in everyone, regardless of their gender or background. Under Robert's leadership, I'd flourished. He'd mentored me, challenged me, helped me grow from an eager rookie into a seasoned professional. When he promoted me to marketing director 7 years ago, he told me something I'd never forget. Sarah, success isn't just about making money. It's about building something that matters. But 3 years ago, Robert had passed away suddenly, leaving the company to his son. Mark had immediately started dismantling everything his father had built. The inclusive culture, the emphasis on innovation, the focus on employee growth. All of it replaced by a toxic environment of favoritism and short-term profit chasing. I watched as talented people were pushed out, replaced by Mark's drinking buddies and golf partners. The company's reputation began to suffer, our market share started slipping, and our best clients began looking elsewhere. That's when I started buying stock. It had begun as a small investment, just a few shares purchased through my personal account. But as Mark's mismanagement continued, more shareholders started selling. I created MKS Ventures as a holding company and began acquiring larger blocks of shares, always staying just under the threshold that would require public disclosure. 3 months ago, when one of the major institutional investors decided to sell their entire stake, I saw my opportunity. Through a complex series of transactions orchestrated by my lawyer, James Chen, MKS Ventures acquired controlling interest in Davidson Tech Solutions. He still doesn't suspect anything. Maya, my best friend and the company's head of HR, asked later that afternoon. She was one of only 3 people who knew the truth about MKS Ventures. I shook my head, organizing files on my desk. Not a clue. He's too busy congratulating himself on hiring Jennifer away from our biggest competitor. Maya snorted. You mean the competitor that's been losing market share for the past 2 years? The one that's about to be investigated for financial irregularities? The very same. I smiled, thinking about the stack of research I had on both Jennifer and her former employer. Mark thinks he's making a power move. He has no idea what's actually happening. When are you going to tell him? Tomorrow morning. James is filing the paperwork first thing, and then we're calling an emergency board meeting. I paused, looking at the photo on my desk. Me and Robert Davidson at the company's 10th anniversary celebration. It's time to put things right. Maya nodded, understanding in her eyes. Robert would be proud of you, you know. You're not just saving his company, you're making it better. I felt tears prick at my eyes but blinked them away. There would be time for emotions later. Right now, I had work to do. The next morning, I arrived early. Jennifer was already waiting in the lobby, dressed in an expensive suit that screamed corporate climber. Her resume had looked impressive at first glance, but I knew better. I'd done my homework. Jennifer, I greeted her warmly. Welcome to Davidson Tech. I'll be showing you the ropes over the next few weeks. She barely concealed her condescension as she looked me up and down. That's very kind of you. Mark has told me all about the changes he's planning to implement. I bet he has, I thought, leading her to my office. Well, why don't we start with our current marketing strategy? I'm sure you'll find it enlightening. For the next 2 hours, I walked Jennifer through our campaigns, our client relationships, and our future plans. She interrupted frequently, making suggestions that showed she had no real understanding of our industry or our market position. These retention strategies seem very old-fashioned, she said, gesturing dismissively at a presentation I'd created. In my experience, aggressive acquisition is much more effective than maintaining existing relationships. I made a note on my pad. Her attitude was confirming everything my research had suggested about her previous employer's troubles. At 10 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from James. Papers filed. Board members notified. Meeting set for 11. Jennifer, I said, standing up, I'm afraid we'll have to cut this morning's training short. There's an emergency board meeting I need to attend. She looked surprised. Board meeting. But Mark didn't mention. No, I smiled. I don't suppose he did. I left her to my office and made my way to the conference room. Mark was already there, face red with anger as he talked on his phone. What do you mean, emergency board meeting? I'm the CEO. I have to approve any board meetings. He looked up as I entered, covering the phone with his hand. Sarah, what are you doing here? This is for executives only. I know, I said calmly, taking a seat at the head of the table. That's why I'm here. Before he could respond, other board members began filing in. I recognized most of them. The old guard who had served under Robert, gradually pushed to the sidelines by Mark over the past 3 years. James Chen arrived last, carrying a thick folder of documents. He nodded to me as he took his seat. What's going on here? Mark demanded, looking around the room. I didn't authorize this meeting. No, I said, standing up. I did. The room fell silent as James began distributing documents to each board member. 3 months ago, I continued, my voice steady, MKS Ventures acquired controlling interest in Davidson Tech Solutions. As of this morning, that acquisition is complete and fully documented with the SEC. Mark's face went from red to white. MKS Ventures. But that's my company, I finished for him. Named after my initials, Sarah Catherine Mitchell. The board members were reading through the documents now, murmurs of surprise and understanding filling the room. This is impossible, Mark sputtered. You're just a marketing director. You can't afford to buy a company this size. I thought about the years of careful investment, the long nights spent studying financial reports, the strategic planning that had led to this moment. Actually, Mark, I can. And I did. I opened my own copy of the documents. Now shall we discuss the future of Davidson Tech Solutions? The look on his face was everything I'd imagined it would be, a mix of shock, rage, and dawning comprehension. But this wasn't about revenge. This was about something much more important. I pulled out Robert Davidson's old photo from my folder and placed it on the table. Your father built this company on principles of innovation, integrity, and respect for every employee. It's time to return to those values. Mark stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. This is ridiculous. I'll have my lawyers look into this immediately. There's no way this takeover is legal. James Chen cleared his throat. I assure you, Mr. Davidson, everything is perfectly legal. I've personally overseen every transaction. Would you like to see the documentation of how Ms. Mitchell acquired the shares? I watched as James methodically laid out the paper trail, every stock purchase, every filing, every legal document that proved MKS Ventures' legitimate acquisition of Davidson Tech Solutions. As you can see, James continued, his voice professionally neutral, Ms. Mitchell now owns 51% of the company's shares. The board has been called today to vote on new leadership. Mark's face contorted with rage. You sneaky little. I'd choose your next words very carefully. I interrupted, my voice cool. The board is watching. And they were. Every member sat alert, documents in hand, watching the drama unfold. Many of them had worked with Robert, had seen the company's decline under Mark's leadership. Members of the board, I said, standing to address them directly, for the past 3 years, we've watched this company lose market share, valuable employees, and most importantly, its identity. The culture of innovation and integrity that Robert Davidson built has been systematically dismantled. I began distributing another set of documents, charts showing the company's declining performance under Mark's leadership. Our profit margins have dropped 40% in 3 years. We've lost 12 major clients. Employee turnover is at an all-time high. But more than that, we've lost our way. The board members nodded, examining the numbers. They'd seen the decline firsthand, even if they'd been powerless to stop it. This isn't just about numbers, I continued. It's about who we are as a company. Robert Davidson built this company to be more than just another tech firm. He wanted to create something that mattered. Oh, spare us the sentimental garbage, Mark spat. Business is about profit, not your precious feelings about my father. A board member, Janet Chen, no relation to James, spoke up. Actually, Mark, business is about sustainable growth and strong leadership. Something we haven't seen much of lately. Others began nodding in agreement. The tide was turning. I moved to vote on new leadership, Janet said firmly. I second the motion, another board member added. Mark looked around wildly, realizing he was losing control. You can't do this. I'm a Davidson. This is my company. No, I said quietly. It was your father's company, and he knew that leadership isn't inherited, it's earned. The vote was quick and decisive. Within 15 minutes, Mark Davidson was no longer CEO of Davidson Tech Solutions. Security was called to escort him from the building, his face purple with rage as he shouted threats about lawsuits and revenge. As the board filed out, Janet stayed behind. That couldn't have been easy, she said, squeezing my shoulder. But it was necessary. I nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settling on my shoulders. The hard part's just beginning. And it was. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. First, there was Jennifer to deal with. She'd been hired by Mark specifically to replace me, but her contract hadn't been finalized. After a brief conversation where I outlined my concerns about her previous employer's practices, she decided to pursue other opportunities. Then came the task of rebuilding. Maya and I worked late into the night, reviewing personnel files, identifying talented employees who'd been sidelined under Mark's leadership. Look at this, Maya said one evening, pulling up a file. Thomas Chen in engineering, he's been passed over for promotion 3 times, despite having multiple patents and excellent performance reviews. Let's set up a meeting, I replied. We need people like him in leadership positions. Slowly but surely, we began to reshape the company. I reinstated the mentorship program Robert had started. We revived the innovation lab that Mark had shut down. Most importantly, we started rebuilding the culture that had made Davidson Tech special. A month after the takeover, I sat in what had once been Mark's office, now significantly redecorated, reviewing our progress with Maya. Employee satisfaction scores are up 30%, she reported, and we've had 3 former employees reach out about coming back. I smiled, thinking about the changes we'd made. The office felt different now, more energetic, more alive. People weren't afraid to share ideas or raise concerns. But not everything was smooth sailing. Mark, true to his word, had his lawyers examine every aspect of the takeover. They found nothing irregular, but the scrutiny was stressful. Then there were the industry rumors he tried to spread, suggesting the company was unstable under new leadership. We answered those rumors with results. Within 6 months, we'd not only stabilized our market position but begun to grow again. Innovation, once stifled, flourished. New products were developed, new clients signed. 1 year after the takeover, I stood in front of the entire company at our annual meeting. The auditorium was packed. We'd hired over 100 new employees in the past year. When Robert Davidson founded this company, he had a vision, not just of creating successful products, but of building something meaningful, a place where innovation and integrity went hand in hand. I paused, looking out at the sea of faces. Some had been there under Robert's leadership, others were new, but all shared the same sense of purpose. For a while, we lost sight of that vision. But today, we're back on track. Our profits are up 45% from last year. Our employee satisfaction is at an all-time high. But more importantly, we're making a difference. I gestured to the screen behind me, showing our latest project. A collaborative effort between our tech team and local schools, helping bring STEM education to underprivileged communities. This is what success looks like, I continued. Not just numbers on a spreadsheet, but real impact on real people's lives. After the meeting, Maya found me in my office, staring at Robert's old photo. "He would be proud, she said softly. I nodded, touching the frame gently. "I hope so." Sometimes I wonder if I did the right thing, taking over the way I did. "Sarah," Maya said firmly, "you didn't just take over. You saved this company. Look at what you've built." She was right. In the past year, we'd done more than just restore the company. We'd made it better. Our technology was more innovative, our culture stronger, our impact greater. The photo on my desk wasn't just of Robert anymore. Next to it sat a new one, taken at our last company picnic. Hundreds of smiling faces, all part of something bigger than themselves. That evening, as I prepared to leave the office, I received an unexpected email. It was from Robert's widow, Margaret. "Dear Sarah, I've been watching what you've done with the company this past year. Robert always said you were special, that you understood what Davidson Tech was really about. He was right. Thank you for keeping his dream alive and for making it even better. With gratitude, Margaret." Tears pricked at my eyes as I read her words. This was why I'd done it, not for revenge against Mark, not for personal gain, but because some things are worth fighting for. The next morning, I arrived early as usual. The office was quiet, but not for long. Soon it would be filled with energy, ideas, and possibility. As I walked to my office, I passed the wall where Robert's old motto hung. "Success isn't just about making money. It's about building something that matters." I smiled, thinking about how far we'd come. Mark had thought he was pushing me out, forcing me to train my replacement. Instead, he'd inspired me to become something more. Not just an employee, but a leader. Not just a marketer, but a visionary. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's proving that you were right all along, that integrity, innovation, and respect aren't just nice words on a wall, but principles worth fighting for. As the office began to fill with employees, I heard the familiar buzz of creativity and collaboration. This was Robert Davidson's real legacy, not just a successful company, but a place where people could grow, innovate, and make a difference. And now it was my legacy too.